Boyfriend, killer, boyfriend, killer.
Boyfriend, killer, boyfriend, killer. Sid, the man is lying!
You're okay. This one, real fucking ugly.
You're dead.
No, please don't kill me, Mr. Ghostface. I want to be in the sequel.
You just bought yourself another Saturday.
Christ.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
Scream 2, 1997, directed by Wes Craven, also written by Kevin Williamson. Made just a year after the original Scream, this sequel was rushed into production due to the success of the original.
I was a little apprehensive about doing a sequel.
That's the middle story in the trilogy, actually.
People are always much quicker to bash a sequel because, I mean, the very reason that one is being made is because the first film or the original was so good. So you have a lot more demands on you.
When I think of Scream in general, I always think of the opening scene of Scream 2, when Jada Pinkett Smith's character is killed in the theater. First off, the whole idea of having a movie based on the true events that happened in Woodsboro just the previous year is brilliant, in my opinion. I thought the stab movies in the Scream franchise always were a good thing and a pro in the whole franchise, because it adds to the satirical nature of the whole franchise and it helps Scream make fun of itself, which I think is a good thing for a horror movie, to be able to make fun of itself and not take itself too seriously. But anyway, Jada Pinkett Smith's character is going on a date with Omar Epps' character in the beginning. And well, Jada Pinkett Smith's character is right. They probably shouldn't have seen stab, because they wind up getting stabbed in the first minute of the movie. But those are two of, I think, Scream's best kills ever, maybe. Because Omar Epps gets stabbed in the bathroom through the stall, in the ear, when he's trying to listen in on the weird noises coming from the stall next door. And then Jada Pinkett Smith's character gets stabbed, but everybody in the theater is cheering her on, and they think that this is some weird rendition of the movie. And she goes up on stage and she's in front of the projector, and you just see her bleeding out as Ghostface's face is on the theater screen behind her. And it's such a powerful image, and it really sets the tone for this movie, or at least it tries to, because I don't think that the movie withheld this hype. I almost want to say that the opening scene is the best part of the whole movie, aside from Gale and Cotton Weary, because Gale and Cotton Weary, well, this is their movie. The first movie was Billy and Stu's movie. This was Gale and Cotton's movie, because Gale, Courtney Cox, she stole the show. Her character arc in Scream 2 made the movie fun to watch. And then Cotton Weary is this like guy who is wanting fame, and he'll go to any lengths to get it. He also just wants to clear his name, so you can't help but feel bad for the guy. But he also pushes the limits for the audience's sympathy, because he does kind of go about this in a shady kind of way in the middle of the film, when he approaches Sydney in the library and he's like yelling at her, and then he gets arrested.
Such a good angle, Sydney. Lovable and fucked up Sydney Prescott, everybody's favorite little victim. Wow! 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 What are you doing? Keep your hand on top of your head. Shut the fuck up.
Jesus, I'm not Billy Loomis. You killed him. He's dead, remember?
I'm jumping all over the place. I'm sorry. I literally just got done watching this movie not 20 minutes ago, so everything's still pretty fresh in my mind. How about we just jump right into the meat of it? The probably worst part of Scream 2. They killed Randy in the middle of the movie. He didn't even make it to the final act. I think that was very unforgivable of the writers and, well, Wes Craven to allow that to happen in the movie, because Randy Meek's character, played by Jamie Kennedy, like I said in my Scream 1996 review, he is one of the greatest horror characters to ever exist. I mean, he represents us, the horror fan base. He's so omniscient to the things that go on in horror movies that you can't help but listen to his monologue because it almost sounds like you're talking to one of your friends about a horror movie. And they kill him in the middle of this movie. I mean, I don't know. In the original script of Scream 2, Randy was actually supposed to be Gale's cameraman. And I almost think that that would have been a better call. I think if Randy was Gale's cameraman, it would have... I don't know. I just think the banter between Randy and Gale would have been hilarious. It would have been an excuse for Randy to live longer, maybe. It would have given his character more of a meaning rather than just, hey, I survived the first movie and I'm a fan favorite. I'm going to be in the first hour or so of this movie, then get killed for plot. I don't even know why they did it, to be honest. But Randy got killed, and I mean, they found an excuse to bring him back in Scream 3, which we'll get there. But if Randy was still alive, I think that would honestly be better. I would love to see him in Scream 6 that's coming out next month. But now we can't, because in Scream 2, they committed this sin. Okay, I know I'm jumping all around, but back to Cotton and when he was in the library screaming at Sydney's character. I wrote this down in my notes for this video. Sydney from Scream 1 would have punched Cotton in the face. But since it's Scream 2 and now she has all this trauma, her writing was all different. Because in the first Scream, Sydney was so good because she was that fiery heroine, that fiery final girl that she was ballsy in the first one. And I go back to when she slapped Gale across the face when she was trying to get an interview with Sydney, and Sydney had no part in that. She just slapped her right across the face. But in this one, Cotton is yelling at her and berating her to go do an interview with Diane Sawyer, I think it was, because he just wants to clear his name and he wants to be famous, which, whatever. Sydney from Scream 1 would have slapped him right across the face and had no part in that. I think the way that they wrote Sydney in Scream 2 pales in comparison to the original Scream, which is why I asked the question, was a sequel really warranted? Like, if Scream never became a franchise and it was just a one-off satirical movie about the horror genre, do you think that would have had more impact than doing an entire franchise and becoming almost a parody of itself? Which, now that we're getting to the 6th installment, it kind of is becoming a parody of itself. I mean, it started off making fun of all these slashers and all the tropes, but it does them anyway. But I guess that's the beauty of Scream, isn't it? It lets you know the tropes, and then it does them. And you can't help but have a good time and laugh and enjoy them and get scared at times. I mean, that's the beauty of horror, isn't it? The scene where Ghostface takes over the car and then crashes the car. It was... They jumped the shark. They jumped the shark with that. Ghostface is passed out and Sydney and her friend have to crawl past an unconscious Ghostface. Because they couldn't smash out the back side window and just crawl through that. They had to go through the window that Ghostface was sitting at. That was dumb, in my opinion. Scream was always like the more realistic slasher horror movie where it kind of, you know, it walked the line of fiction and reality, and it almost was realistic for all of it. But this was just, come on. This was really just dumb character horror movie stuff when they had to crawl past the unconscious Ghostface to escape him. And Sydney didn't even pull off his mask when she had the chance to. I mean, if you're going to crawl over the guy, at least take off the mask. But it all worked out and took us to the third act, which, can I just say, this third act was not as good as the first Scream's third act. I mean, it's going to be pretty hard to ever top Scream 1's third act, but I mean, it was good. I just think that Mickey and Mrs. Loomis should have been on screen together for longer, because I feel like what made the third act in Scream 1 so good is the banter between Billy and Stu. You saw these two psychopaths talk about their plot and try and get it to work. But in Scream 2, Mickey gets unveiled first, and he banters back and forth with Sydney while the boyfriend is strung up, which that was a great moment in the movie. I did not remember Mickey being that good of a ghost face. I was blown away by how good Mickey actually was when he's got the knife to his forehead and he's like, boyfriend, killer, boyfriend, killer. That was so good. It reminded me of Billy. I think that's why. His nuances were so good. That actor did a great job as the killer. Just to get Mrs. Loomis unveiled. Which also, wait, before I go any further, the way that they unveiled Mrs. Loomis was also really smart because they had Gail come out first. And for a split second, I was like, wait a minute, I don't remember Gail being the kid. Right. And then Mrs. Loomis comes out with the gun and she's holding it at Gail, and that's why Gail walked out first. It's little things like that that makes the Scream franchise better than other horror franchises. It's the little things that really go a far way. But Mrs. Loomis, her son did a better job. Let's just say that. She was a good character, don't get me wrong, but I don't know. Her and Mickey, I just don't think they had any chemistry on screen like Billy and Stu did. They didn't really banter back and forth that much. They kind of unveil Mrs. Loomis and then boom, she shoots Mickey and Mickey is dead for the time being. It kind of was anti-climactic, kind of. I mean, she comes out, Mrs. Loomis, boom, kills Mickey, Mickey's dead, and then I don't know, it almost rushed to the ending, if you know what I mean. Scream 1, you knew it was Billy and Stu for a good, I want to say, 20-25 minutes before the movie ends and they die. And it was them running around the house trying to get the plan to work. In Scream 2, they almost cut right to the chase and they reveal the killers and immediately they die after a quick little chase scene where Sydney is pulling all the levers and cutting all the wires and letting the sandbags fall from the ceiling and trying to kill Mrs. Loomis. But Scream 2, it just is not as good as Scream 1996, and I have to give it a B-. I don't want to give it a C just because it is a fun movie, and that opening scene gives it a lot of points, and Gail and Cotton's banter back and forth and their bond in the movie and their character arcs, they make this movie worth watching. But all in all, I think I give Scream 2 a B-. It's a movie you can put on, but it's just not one that personally I would go back and rewatch. I would pick Scream 1 over Scream 2 any day. And again, that's why I ask, was a sequel warranted? But they just kept racking out the sequels because Scream 3 is going to be next. I'm going to review that one. If you're new here, subscribe, which you're all new here. I just made this channel, so subscribe. Thank you for everybody that's followed me from my other channel. If you don't know, I have another channel. It's my main channel, my Maximus Cardillo channel, where I vlog my life and I do short films and things like that on there. So go subscribe to that channel if you didn't already. Are you not entertained? I don't know. I still didn't get an outro for this channel. I'm kind of just pumping out videos, trying to get in the flow of this movie review stuff. Put this out. I had that in the last video if you didn't notice it. A little ghost face guy. Okay, alright, that's it. That's the video. You can click off now. Scream 2. B-. That's it.